Oh, I just realized. Hold up. Nah, we're good. Edit. I would like to edit. I messed up the thumbnail. There we go. Can we change that? Change. Gonna let me change it. It's not gonna let me change it.
I think it's cute. It's fine.
Change. Nah, it's just my head. Nah, I gotta upload one. Do I got any good pictures up in here? Got 0 pictures up in here. That's fine. It's just my head. Whatever. All right. We don't need it.
All right.
I look good anyways. Exactly. All right. Whose turn is it to do intro? It's you, I think. Yeah, it's you.
I think so. All right, guys. Welcome back to Big Bird Outdoors. I'm Max.
I'm Nate.
And today we're going to talk about Fishing 101.
We left the Canadian flag this time.
We're
not Canadian.
Canada.
We don't like Canada.
No.
We're not Canadian. It's his brother's. So
My brother's weird like that. So.
He's a goof. But yeah, today it's, as you can obviously see in the video title or the podcast title, it's Fishing 101. So kind of the rundown of how you can get into. I wouldn't say there's one way that you should get into fishing, but ways you can get into it. So to start, well, how would you start? First of all, that's kind of a good way to start. Is how did each of us start?
Well, my grandfather introduced it to me when I was like 3, probably. I don't know. And I liked it, and then just kept going on trips, and I really liked it because it was fun. And yeah, just kind of stuck on and kept going with it.
Yeah, we both started young, which is a good thing. But I caught my first fish when I was 4, I think, and just kind of slowly kept building it up from there, and just turned into the fishing maniac I am today.
Right.
Can't even tell you exactly what I think. It was just a sunny or something stupid.
Yeah.
I think, but actually, that's a good.
Most people.
Yeah, that's a quick segue into like the sort of the. How can you get someone into fishing? I think it depends on age. Because like if with a kid, you need to get them engaged. So like you need to like, depending on where you are, whether it's just sunnies on worms, crappie on little jigs, even if it's smaller ones. If you're in places where there's white bass, if there's little like trout derbies or something, and like small like club stock ponds, stuff like that. I did a few of those when I was younger.
Yeah.
But stuff like that where they're almost guaranteed to catch something, and or catch a lot of something. So like, that's why I said I think like sunnies, panfish, white bass if you're in a place and you can get in a school of them. In terms of saltwater around us, porgies are everywhere. Sea bass are everywhere. So something they can drop down on, catch, and just keep going. Because the more you get a kid engaged, the more likely they are to come back. And then as they get older, they'll start to realize, okay, it's not all rainbows and sprinkles. But it kind of plants that seed of fun in their head.
Right.
You got anything else to add to children?
I think they're also more like, instead of, no, I don't want to do this, they might just go along with you, depending on the kid. Like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
That's true. It depends
Instead
on the kid.
of like the kids like my age, usually they really don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Get them earlier or.
Right.
Yeah. But there are kids who get interested in it later into like middle school and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, I think it's just I think it's more information based. Where I think like younger kids, it's like, all right, we're going to go catch fish and have fun. Whereas when you're older, you kind of got to learn it. And I think engaging the brain, even if it's not like catching fish one after another. I mean, obviously putting someone on a fish or multiple fish will help instill that in them. But we've kind of talked about it with hunting. If you can go and have a bad day and still want to go again, then you're pretty much set for life. But going past that, obviously, I think with older kids, even if they're not like directly realizing it, I think trying to set information through and kind of get the brain working kind of helps.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of true as you get older from like 10, 12 up, probably 12 up, 13 years old up. I think you just need kind of that information bank kind of setting on people.
I'd say so.
Mm-hmm. And I think as a guide too, because I did put it in the description because we're going to talk about it as someone who does guides and who's been taking people on like first fishing experiences for years now, it's kind of like you want kind of that information bank sort of thing. You want to tell people or get them asking questions that you can then answer. So like, why exactly are we fishing here? Why, even if they're not directly asking that, and you can still kind of provide some answers as you're going.
Yeah.
It's like the simple stuff. So why are we fishing here specifically? Why are we using the bait, lure, technique, style, yada yada yada, for this time or for this fish? Why are we now moving to a new spot? Unless it's stupidly obvious you're not catching anything, but like if you are catching stuff, but you as a guide know, all right, we can do better here, or we might have the opportunity to do better here. If not, we just come back, and then they might be like, wait, we're catching fish. Why are we now moving? You know, like even just simple questions like that. What's the way I, as the person fishing, can now make something happen in the position I'm given? It's like I have the rod, the tackle, the lures, the position, all that. So like now what's a way to like break it down and really make it effective, you know?
Yeah.
Which is only things you learn from experience. And if you're then passing that to people directly, then that only builds their experience quicker.
Yeah. Red and white there,
Mhm.
or black and white.
Hell yeah.
Killer. All the way for pike at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important thing is building like staples. So like personally, I think we said it with the hunting one way early on in the podcasts, where you don't want to get stuck on one thing necessarily, but if you can nail down one thing, and I feel like a lot of people do this with hunting and or fishing, if you can nail one thing down early, or you can get one fish down early, you know what I mean?
I got you.
So whether it's like
sunfish, simple as that.
Yeah. So even if you can dial them in for a year,
right,
and then you can kind of expand, or you dial in crappie for a year and learn them and expand. I think sort of a more game fish would make more sense, like bass, crappie, trout, something like that, like not just like worm and hook, because that's a little easy.
Yeah.
But then also like if you want to dial in a technique, so I want to get very good at trolling, you know, like obviously a first year fisherman's not going to be out there scooting a boat around trolling all the time, but like even as you progress you could do that. So like I've never trolled in my life. I'm going to learn all about it and do it a lot more, even if it's not like the perfect technique, you know. I think it's actually very underrated for other species.
What, trolling?
Trolling, like for crappie, I love not motor trolling, but drift trolling.
That's what my grandfather does.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, or you can even motor troll with a electric motor or very slow on the main motor, the main outboard.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me going off on a little crappie tangent. But personally, my favorite guide to do, and both of our favorites to fish, is trout in the river. But that's a little more advanced, so you have to have some ability to fish previous to that. But I think that's a very formative experience. The hell are you doing? You hurt yourself?
I don't know. I just like pinched it and it like actually started hurting.
But yeah, I think that's it's a formative type of fishing.
Yeah.
Like you can be a solid fisherman in a flat lake with all the room in the world, but when now you have to hit very specific little sections of the river, and that bite's coming at a very specific point.
It's a whole nother ball.
And you gotta, and as soon as especially when it's that first time you feel that fish hit, and you gotta get him on one shot, and you have no idea where in that current he's gonna hit. You might have to hit that current 20 times and get 20 different ways that bait's moving through the current. I think that's a very formative thing for anglers, is not necessarily doing just that, but like that's the primary example I think of doing something a lot more difficult.
That is
like a lot of people talk about musky fishing, the fish of 1,000 casts or 10,000 casts. I think it's 1,000 casts, but it's very difficult to find them and catch them consistently. So something like that's a formative experience.
Right.
Going out and dialing in your own spots, very formative experience. So like it's very easy if you go with somebody every time that has 10 spots dialed in that they've had for 10 years.
Right.
But if you then have to go out blind to a lake or a portion of the ocean or a river or something like that, dialing in your own spots is very difficult for a lot of new anglers, but I think it's something that you need to do as a formative experience.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I'm trying to do. Hopefully going out to Missouri, never fish the area. So I'm just literally, I've caught the fish out there. I've caught a few white bass. I've caught catfish. I've caught crappie, obviously, are my favorite. So that'll be easy for me. But like white bass, catfish, stuff like that, I've only done it a little bit. And now I'm going to a whole new portion of the country that I've never fished. So I got to dial in the fish that I've only caught a few times. But I have the information, so that helps because I just watch videos and learn from people, and after you've fished for a certain amount of time, you kind of get this natural inclination to something just by hearing minimal information, which I think is another huge thing. You'll start to notice that.
Yeah.
Like you'll just see a video and you're like, all right, I can go out and do this. No time flat, easy.
Right.
And catch fit and be effective with it. But I think going out and doing stuff like that, like finding new spots, trying new areas, stuff like that, not just hitting the same thing over and over and over. I think that grows you as an angler. Obviously, that's not like new, but as you're trying to progress as an angler.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything to add to that? I just went on a huge tangent.
No, like in the past few years, and when we go to Minnesota, I finally started like trying to dial in and trying to figure out the fish, because beforehand you just go around cast.
Yeah.
Oh, we got one here. Oh, no, nothing here. So like now I've found pinpoints on the lake that are like you will most definitely catch this here. And like other spots, I know there's one corner, there's like a little tiny patch of lily pads, always bass there, always.
Yeah, I think
no pike, always bass.
Yeah, as a guide, that's pressure on you too.
Right.
So obviously a newer angler or somebody who's not a guide doesn't have to quite deal with that. But when you say, all right, I'm giving out crappie guides, trout guides, pike guides, striper guides, I need to know places to go.
Yeah. So
with crappie specifically, I have 2 lakes with multiple places I know I can go there. And even if I'm not slaying them, I'm catching fish. Whether it's 2, 3, 4, or on a good day, it could be 20 in one spot. But I know I'm going there and fish will hit. So that's a very important, and then through the year too, because with trout in the river, it's a little different because it's stocked river and it's a full stretch.
yeah,
So it's kind of your guess where they'll be. But even there, we have spots where we're like, I know fish sit right here.
This spot.
I've known this current for like 3-4 years. I know how they sit in this exact one.
Yeah.
And we're talking like a mile and a half stretch of river. And I can take certain pools or like literally like a section as wide as this room, and I can pick the exact current and the exact spot where that fish is. And that can only come from experience.
Right.
So like when I'm guiding on the river, I can say like, all right, hit this spot. If we don't get anything, that's fine. We'll move there.
Right.
But then we'll get to one of those spots and I'm like, hit this over and over until we either you catch every fish available out of it or we know there's not a fish in it.
Right. Or like that one spot that we always catch fish out of. You know the big pool, like just before that rocks and there was a fallen tree there this year? Always fish there.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those spots where we always talk about people that can't fish the river. It's funny as hell to watch people fish the river when they don't know how.
In the rock.
Yeah, but I've probably gotten 4 or 5 good lures out of there just for free. Probably about $20 worth of lures or so, at least. But one of my favorite trolling lures I actually got out of the river. Literally just shine there nice and bright. It was only like elbow deep, but a tree time took it. But with that, you were just talking about a specific pool. Obviously, you and I know the one we're talking about.
Right.
You at home don't. Even if it's been in a video, they're not gonna go that pool. But like we'll see people fish it, and even as you watch, you get to a point where you've fished a style and a technique in a place so much and so many times that you start to realize the hiccups in other people, and then you can exploit. It almost sounds like a sport, like basketball, or football. Like I see a weakness in the enemy, and now I exploit it. but you can go and watch somebody in the same exact pool, and you can see like, all right, they missed that. Literally, it can be with trout fishing. What I was talking about with precision, it can literally be that one little catch in one current, and that fish is waiting for something to rip right down that, because so many things fly by it in a day that it's not going to go out of its way until it comes right to it. So now you go, all right, try and hit that thing, miss it a few times. Usually you miss it a few times just because you don't know the exact movement of the river because it changes on a daily basis.
So excited.
Yeah, now I got max pumped up. But then you hit it and you get down and you get that one fish that guy that fished there for 5-10 minutes missed. And I think, or literally like he was standing here and then you stand 10 feet left and now you can hit a totally different spot and a totally different angle, and that catches you the fish.
Yeah.
And like we said before, there's people that don't know how to fish it, and we use a technique that's been around since my great grandfather. So it's tried and tested up to me through 4 generations,
Right.
and it has caught
It works.
tens, if not hundreds of thousands of fish.
Yeah, it works.
I mean,
very
it's
well.
we probably caught 400 or 500 this year.
Yeah, probably.
Off that technique, probably about 400. I'm talking 10, 12 a day on average, lower average, like 7, 8. And that's in like 1-2 hour days. With the guides, it's 5 hours. So what's two? So even if we're getting 8 and 2, you're still catching 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 fish in a 5 hour trip if we fish the whole stretch of the river. But then that thing that we were talking about we're kind of going off on a tangent now, but like portions of the river or certain spots in the river where we know we're going to catch fish, we're not just hopping to those. You're still hitting the spots that are like, not like unknown, because I could probably map out that entire section of the river because I fished the entire thing so many times. But like those spots where they're a little more toss up. So even if you know I'm going to catch a fish in these 5 spots, so that's 5 definite fish, maybe even if there's 2 in each or something like that. So 5 to 10 definite fish. And now in between those 5 spots, we have 30 toss-up spots. So even if half of those go, we get 15 plus the 5 to 10. So now we're ending up with 20 to 25 fish in the day. I mean, it's obviously a better day, but.
And, there's always fish moving down that river.
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to go stop here. And
here. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
They're always coming through and staying.
So even if that spot's a toss-up,
right,
there could still always be a fish in that spot, in that current. And just because somebody else hits it just ahead of you doesn't mean he missed a fish and that fish moved somewhere, so you're going to catch it underneath him. He just didn't get to a fish. He didn't show the fish what it wanted. Maybe I can do it now.
Right.
He caught his limit in the one spot, so now he just left and he left 2 more fish, and I haven't caught my limit, or I'm catch and release, so now I can go and catch all the fish out of the rest of that pool. It's very tedious, definitely, like sitting on a section for 15 minutes at a time sometimes.
Fun, though.
I mean, there's points where it's 5 minutes because, it's like, all right, I haven't gotten a hit yet. I'm moving. It's a small section. But there's spots where you sit 10, 15 minutes just because you got like one hit early on.
Right.
Like with my big one, especially, yours hit right away. So that helped.
Yeah.
After all the little ones kept stealing it before that. But with my bigger rainbow, you can see it on my Insta. That's linked below. But 4.5 pound rainbow. So basically, there's a spot where Max knows exactly where it is, where we get basically this like ladder type of deal with the fish. And almost virtually every time it's either there's no fish or they're stacked up in the spot, usually in 2 groups of 2, 3. Sometimes there's a 4th one in the next current out. But so I catch the first one out of that spot. Decent size 14-inch rainbow. Get it out, hook into the second one, and I just see a big shadow move. And I'm like, I'm not leaving this spot till that thing at least hits and I miss it, or I catch this fish. And by the shadow, I thought it was about 2 pounds, which is still a beautiful fish. But I literally sat and hit that current, not even that spot, that current for 20 minutes straight until I caught that fish. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very tedious at times, but if you can, even if you sit and hit the same thing over and over for 20 minutes, then you get rewarded with the big fish. You know?
Yeah. That part I would call the jungle. Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, the rocky area.
Yeah, trees, and the trees are real dark around it.
That's the fun spot to bring new people. They think they got the other parts dialed down.
I got it.
Right in the fire. This is how we're ending off the trip, right in the fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you're new to fishing, not only do you have to get down the staples of it, the simplicity, but you need to challenge yourself too, because you're not gonna progress. I don't want to say that sounds weird because it's fishing. It's supposed to be fun. But if you don't progress, you're not going to have fun because you're going to flatline on what you're catching.
Yeah.
You're going to only be able to fish in one season because you've only dialed that in. You got to try new things. I mean, that's the fun, but that's the fun of it. Well, if you really get into fishing, the fun of it is trying new things. I think that's the big thing of fishing. It's like, as much as I love crappie fishing, trout fishing, fluke and sea bass fishing on the bottom, if I did that all year, every year, just those three things, I would get bored as hell.
Yeah.
And that's why I love going out and trying new things, because if all I had available to me, I mean, with trout fishing, the reason we love it so much is we get it from April to the end of May, very rarely into early June if the conditions are right. But it's a 2-month period where we just have to hammer the rivers, and then it's gone until the next 2-month period a year later. Right. So that's why we love it so much, because it's rare in a sense in comparison to the year. Where crappie, as much as I love it, it's from April to ice. I mean, it's year round if you think of it, you know. Yeah, really, yeah. And then the fun with that is following them through the seasons. I know I don't bass fish that much, but a lot of bass guys get that same feeling, finding them through the seasons, you know.
Yeah, I'm not.
Pike, same way. Stripers, same way. All the ones I have guided trips for are the ones where you're finding them, you know, all the time. Yeah. Which again puts pressure on you and I to then go find spots.
Right.
But especially with the ones that, like stripers, it's kind of a reactive thing. So I'm looking for birds. I'm looking for changes in the tide and points where that's changing with the tide. So it's not necessarily following the fish because they're somewhere. Yeah, it's just I got to find the exact spot at that time, and I have ideas for those spots. Pike are kind of the same way, you know. I have areas where I know they're cruising, they're going to be ambushing from, but like those schooling fish, so like especially crappie and perch, I got to find those schools and know where they all are at all times of the year. Because they're somewhere, they don't run out of the lake, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they're somewhere and they're eating. But even trout are kind of like that. I know the areas they may be, but they're gonna move from them. So I just gotta find the exact area. And they could be spread out, but those schooling fish like crappie, perch are gonna be in a big piles in places.
Yeah. Like back to the trout thing, like some spots look really good.
For the river you're talking about?
Yeah, for the river. Some spots look amazing. Like there has to be, but they might not even.
Oh, we say that all the time.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. There's got to be one here. I can't believe there's not one.
And then it's not.
With Max and I, we've caught so damn many of them. And through the years, my family's caught so damn many of them that we don't have a problem sitting on a spot we feel good in, even if we internally figure out there's not a fish. Because you get to a point where you can hit currents in a way that like you can cover them in a whole section in 5 minutes truly. Yeah. But like I said, with getting tedious sometimes, if you feel really good in a spot, even though deep down you know there might not be a fish, it doesn't hurt to sit there for 5-10 minutes on one little spot and trying to hit it over and over. And like I said, we've caught so many that I'd rather do that. Like sit and try to find things out and see what's happening than just catching fish. Yeah. Because I know I can go, all right, let's just go to this pool and catch 5 and then jump to our next spot, catch 3 more, and then next spot, all right, we'll catch 2 more, you know. Yeah. I'd rather fish those toss-up spots almost. Like going down below the area we usually fish and hitting that just for shits and giggles.
It's also a little more fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Or down below the bridge. Yeah, we saw 2 owls there.
That was pretty cool.
It was.
But yeah, I think in the end, as you get from like beginner level, we didn't really talk about how to like really start beginner level. we can go back on that. But once you get past that beginner level, you need to try new things. I don't, unless you fall into that one thing that you truly, really love. Like I know there's guys who truly, really love bass fishing, truly, really love crappie fishing, truly, really only love striper fishing. But even those guys will go and do things different sometimes.
Yeah,
Or they'll try new areas, even for those same fish, or they'll just take a day off and fish one other type of fish that they know, you know.
I think it's more fun though, hitting multiple species of fish.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'd rather have that than picking just one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I had to pick one, it'd be Pike, but
yeah.
Right.
But like that's what I'm saying. Even with that, like if you just had one lake where you know I can go and catch fish, it's not fun. You know what I mean? Like go try a new lake and figure it out. That's fun.
Yeah.
Try new lures and techniques out. Who knows? Maybe it'll actually work better. Maybe you've been throwing this same swim bait for 5 years and it's worked very well, but now you change the color a little bit and now it's like golden. It's Jesus has bestowed upon you the fish, you know? But yeah, going back to like new, like the start of fishing, we kind of talked about like what to aim for with the different like age groups. So like just touching back on it, like kids, you want action. It needs to happen.
Yeah.
You need to keep them engaged. Older people, it needs to be information, but it also needs to be mixed with the action.
Yeah.
So it might not be as high of action, but making them understand why it's happening and what you're doing to try and get them fish, I think is more important to keep them involved.
Yeah, because then they can also go out on their own.
Exactly. But in terms of like really getting started, I'd say break it down very simple and build up. So like we talked about, hook and bobber with a worm, very simple.
Yep.
It gets you fish. Actually, it's very nice for teaching techniques and how to actually catch a fish, because as you get into those harder things, it's very important to know how to properly catch a fish. It sounds stupid to somebody that doesn't know fishing very well, but how to properly catch a fish is actually a very important skill, where as you progress, it becomes more and more important. So if you're going out and catching 60-pound stripers, knowing how to catch a fish becomes a lot more important than with a little sunny. But you learn it from that little sunny.
Yeah. No,
or if now you're trying to catch, you have your personal best hooked, and I don't know how the hell to catch. Obviously, if you're out there catching personal best, hopefully you've had some experience.
Yeah.
But there's people that go out and catch huge shit and get honestly kind of lucky because they don't really know how to catch a fish. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the chances of them losing that, obviously they caught it, so good on them. But the chances of them losing that fish are higher because you don't know how to properly catch it.
Like back to what you're saying about like how to catch a fish. Like when you're reeling in that sunny, you don't need to set your drag. That's when like it can pull out line or whatever. But if you get that 60-pound striper, you're probably gonna want to set your drag.
You're gonna be battling the drag. Yeah.
You don't want it to snap. Or
part of that's dependent on equipment, but still you need to learn your equipment as you progress, learn how it works, get comfortable with equipment, how to manipulate it.
Right.
In terms of physically catching a fish, tension is number one. The line needs to stay tight and you need to stay consistent in that tension. So you can't be bumping the tension up and down. Once you set, the rod should only move when the fish moves it, or from horizontally. So you shouldn't be moving up and down because that changes the tension. Rod tip in basically every case up always, unless you need to pull a fish away from somewhere. And then again, it's horizontal, keeping tension and then pulling away to cruise them out of somewhere. Like we do that a lot in the river. And that's when you lose the most fish, is when you're trying to maneuver. But in a situation like that with currents, rocks, logs, stuff like that, it's necessary. But that's the hardest time to keep a fish pinned. Yeah, it is. Because they're also working against you in the current and stuff like that. Yeah, so like that's where it would apply, you know. So you may be using the same tackle as catching a sunny, but now you're adding current in, a bigger, stronger fish, a more knowledgeable fish. Yeah. Smaller or similar sized hooks.
Most likely
usually smaller hooks.
More obstacles.
Like
the rocks and stuff.
And then just it's just all those together make it a harder catch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So having the principle of, okay, rod tip up, keep it high, keep tension. With that, it's patience. Like with a sunny, it's just zoom them in unless it's a big one. And you have really light tackle. But I mean, even when we use the same type of tackle for crappie, it's a very light line, and we're catching pound and a half crappie who they fight, and they have very thin, papery mouths. So if you mess up, that fish is gone. If you lose tension, that fish 90% of the time is gone.
That's one of the worst feelings, by the way, if you have a
Big crappie and lose it, yeah,
just a fish,
or just a big fish in general, yeah. But yeah, kind of just that's the same thing though. Rod tip up, keep tension, and then in that case, tension is very important because of the paper mouth. So it's gonna create a small hole where that thing, if you lose tension, it's gonna literally just fall right out. So I think that's often a very overlooked portion of learning how to fish. Like everybody focuses on, all right, use these lures, these colors, find these locations, these points. Can you actually, when you get in the situation to catch a fish, can you actually consistently land that fish?
Right.
Like if you're given average odds, so like an average hook set, an average fish of whatever species with average tackle, can you land that fish in an average situation? So are you gonna like sit there and lose tension and just lose the fish in an average situation? Right. Like there's times where you just set and you hammer the fish and he's not getting off yet. Like a really hard, like if you're bass fishing, you get a really hard set with a nice thick jig hook, you're not losing that fish no matter what you do. Yeah. But then there's times where you get the tiniest piece of skin on a fish's mouth, and now you need to work it and take your time and be patient. And that's where you lose fish. Because obviously when you set a hook, unless it's in front, like at the boat or at your feet, you're not gonna know exactly how that fish is hooked. So you have to treat everyone like it's that special situation where you might screw up. Especially when you're fishing for food. That's how I like to think of it too. Even if I'm fun fishing, fish for food. Always. It keeps your mind clear, so then you're not just
that's, and you're like more focused on it. But that's the other thing about trout fishing is
you have to be focused. You have to be focused.
But when you do catch the fish, you can eat it and it tastes good.
It tastes damn
good. And you can do whatever you want.
And like I said, it's a lot harder to catch them, so it's a lot more gratifying to then go and like throw them in a pan later.
Right.
But but I think upping difficulty level definitely improves you. Yeah. But having the fundamentals underneath it is the only way you can legitimately improve. Yeah. Because you can learn everything, but if you can't literally physically catch the fish, it doesn't do you any good. You're gonna be inconsistent.
Yeah, that's not good.
But in terms of going back to like tackle, I mean the very simple way, small lures in a lake, learn how to cast, get very good at casting. I mean, that should be the number one on everybody's list when you're learning. Get very consistent in casting, good form, be able to backhand cast, overhand, side cast. Obviously, just start with the easy overhand, but start moving into those other techniques because they help you as you get into harder types of fishing.
Flip casts.
Yep.
Skip cast.
No, that's, I mean, when you're bass fishing, that becomes important. Yeah. We skip cast a little bit in at the river. Yeah. For very specific situations. We skip cast for crappie. I mean, the log. But I mean, on those it's not like required. Yeah. But it does have very specific situations where it helps. Yeah. But definitely sidearm, backhand, stuff like that is huge for the type of fishing we do. But again, that's another fundamental. Good casting fundamentals, and then building it out into the more difficult techniques. Yeah. Gee, I sound like I'm giving a self-defense class again. Fundamentals into the harder techniques. Some people had some questions on that. We might actually get another one of that. Max can beat me up this time a little bit, but that'll probably be more question based though. Yeah. But going back, and then. So I would always say tried and tested lures is what you should go with. So if you're starting in a lake, so Phoebes, Colorados, Aglia spinners, rooster tails, another type of spinner. God, there's so many. Castmasters, Little Cleos, Daredevils. Max said that one before. That's what I'm saying. There's so friggin' there's so many super dupers. There's so many tried and tested lures.
You could also
Cyclops from Max. I love those.
The Cyclops?
Yeah, but it starts small and simple, I would say, and get some fish in your repertoire.
Yeah.
And then start kind of like we said before, pick an avenue, learn it, pick another avenue, learn it, and kind of just stack the skills on top of each other. And then you can only progress from there until you get to the point, like kind of where we're at, where it's like, all right, where can we go that's new and go and catch fish, you know?
And color too, like
certain
species. And it also, color depends on the day. Sometimes you're feeling, I'm feeling neon green and pink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling yellow today. Like they just change.
I mean, there's certain species
that always
where it matters. So like, for trout, well, crappie, it doesn't matter as much.
Right.
But trout, our big thing is, especially trolling and or casting in lakes, our big thing is silver during sunny days and gold during cloudy. If it's a partially cloudy day, we have some that are half and half or have a little bit of both, or we'll run one of each or a couple of each and find out what they want. But the general rule is silver sunny and gold cloudy. But then like there's fish like crappie where if you put anything within like their physical ability to eat it, that's white, silver, you sometimes a little chartreuse or pink mixed in, they'll hit it. You know, if it's the right profile size that they can fit in their mouth, they'll eat it.
Yeah.
So we'll have days where it's like, I'm gonna screw around and try the orange and yellow or what, like the fire color, just to see if we have 20 in the cooler. Why not? You know, but I'd say even for that silver and gold example, you could use that just in general. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just kind of to put some idea of color scheme in your head. So like, all right, it's a sunny day. I'm going to throw only silver today. Unless it doesn't work, then I might try something else.
Yeah.
And then kind of taking different colors and trying them in different places. So like, I know the rainbow colored spinner works here, you know, so now I'm going to use that here. Maybe try some new things every once in a while and see if something else sticks out, you know.
Yeah.
What works this time of year? Like, what are the few lures that work here? Okay, now you have your season somewhat. I mean, it's not dead on. Like, I know exactly what's happening every time, but it's some form of
just like
categorizing that like helps you.
Yeah.
So like I know like I'm just gonna throw out stupid examples. An Agley and a Phoebe work in the spring. Okay, so I'm gonna use those more. All right, now I can find different things that are kind of like them and dial it in more every year. In the summer, let's go Colorados and Castmasters. Those work. So now I can dial it in from there, maybe incorporate other things as I progress, you know. And that's obviously distinct to species, but I think finding ways to just dial things in over and over and over and over and over. Like even now, I mean, there's lakes that I know inside out and I know what they're hitting, and even still I'm dialing in literally to a T, to a little period dot, you know. You can always dial in more and more and more and more and always improve more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everything in life, you know.
Places. Oh yeah.
Consistently improve.
Always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm talking more about guides. I mean, we keep throwing it in there, but
sure.
So we've talked about a lot about trout in the river. It's badass. Like we said, you need some ability to fish previous.
Yeah.
At least decent casting would be the number one. And then a feel of a rod, so how to use a rod well. Well, that comes with casting, aim, but also how to use a rod to actually work with what you have on the end of your line. That's a huge part of it, being able to manipulate the rod and the line and the bait and all that. Crappie fishing is a little more simple. We do a lot of either vertical jigging, light casting, flipping docks, so stuff like that with smaller lures. So that's a lot easier to control. usually very fast action, which is awesome. We have one place where we just catch the hell out of them, and then we have one where we don't catch them quite as I don't want to say as consistently because we catch them when we go there.
Yeah.
But not in like the pure numbers, but the size is definitely up there.
Yeah.
So we usually give the people the option: do you want to go and catch 1 million fish, or do you want to go and catch big fish? Big fish, in my opinion. We definitely fish the big fish place more. But the other spot, it's just such a big area to fish because they're everywhere in there. So it's just literally just finding where they are in the area and then just hammering fish.
How much did we catch that day? 40? And we only kept like 20 because it was
Yeah, I think we caught 50 plus that day. I think we counted and we caught 20 or kept like 20 or 22 or something like that. And that was in about 3-4 hours, something like that. Yeah, that was pretty kick ass.
Yeah, it was kind of nonstop. Like,
Yeah.
Oh.
But then with that, we also keep perch as well because sometimes those schools run into each other, especially in the summer. They kind of work similar areas. And sometimes the crappie are tough to get to bite in the summer because they're down deep and you kind of got to be very dead on them. And some days they just won't quite be on it as much as normal. And then we can go out and search for perch schools. We can even troll for perch. We've had very good luck with that. All right, going down the list. So we got trout in the river, crappie and perch. Trout in lakes, mostly trolling. If we go out in a morning or afternoon, we'll cast also up on the sandbars and stuff. Not in like the hot summer, but earlier in the year and later in the year, they push up shallower in the mornings and evenings. So we'll do a little casting if we're out early. But then a lot of trolling after that. I haven't done a lot of that lately. So I definitely have to dial that in this year because the main lake we still do it on, but had draining and a bunch of management stuff. So the stocking numbers weren't up to par.
Oh, yeah.
But I hope they get that up this year, so that would help.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go to a few different lakes during the year and do some heavy trolling and really try to dial it in for that. Next on the list is pike fishing. So very limited opportunity in Connecticut. I want to try and find them on the river too a little bit because that kind of expands our range to work with.
Oh, yeah.
But we have 2 places we can go. One's way up northwest, one's way down southeast. So basically wherever you are in the state, we can probably get you to one of those probably within an hour of anywhere in the state, which is good.
We have one spot in the southeast lake.
Yeah.
That one good where we both caught. Well, I caught one there and then you caught one in the other place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got a few spots there that we know for the summer especially.
Yeah.
And with pike in the spring and fall, it only gets easier. So if we're able to go out, we caught, how long did we fish? Like 4 hours?
Probably.
We caught 2 and had 4 other strikes. I don't know what was up with our hookups that day, but so we had 6 fish we know we got hits with.
We got to go in the spring.
Yeah, I'm planning on that being one of our first places. I don't think there's trout in there, so we can fish it in the non-trout season. I believe. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. There's no trout in there.
Good.
Sweet. So we can hit that earlier in the season. Get the boat out a little earlier than usual. But yeah, going back to that, we might like I just said, try to find some good backwaters in the Connecticut River and try to expand our range with pike a little more. Max has a lot more experience with that because he goes to Minnesota all the time. And they catch a lot of them there. So with that, it's more we're just trying to apply. We know like the techniques and how to catch them. It's just applying it to places exactly, and finding the places where we can really catch them. And we've had 2 places where we know where they are and we can dial that or have that dialed in. So we can definitely go out and catch people fish. It's just being able to expand the range is always a good thing.
Right.
Striper fishing really depends on the time of year. So early mid-spring, we're fishing up into the Connecticut River a little more because they push up. And then as time goes on, the bigger ones come from up south. The ones in the river push out. So then we start fishing the mouth of the Connecticut River. I had a field day this past year. In about 2 hours, I caught a dozen on my own. Want to talk about craziness trying to catch stripe? I mean, they were schoolies, but I was fighting them on bass gear, which was fun as hell. Catching like 3-4 pounders on bass gear, dude, and catching them on my own. So I'm all alone in the boat trying to catch them, hold them, net them, and I ended up catching 12 of them. So that was a hoot and a holler. And we started touching on it before, but that idea of just knowing areas and kind of how to fish each area and testing it out on a given day, because stripers are forage followers. So if there's bait, they're following it. If there's food, they're following it. So it's finding exactly where that bait is, whether it's like the day I went out this past summer where there's birds everywhere and you're just following the school, or days where it's all broken up because there's no big bait pile. So now I gotta run tubes along edges, cast up on the sandbars, bounce live bait. Like there's just different things you can try on a given day, and then kind of just find the technique to work with. And I think that one's definitely fun because it's so adaptive. So it's like, all right, this isn't working. Oh, let's try this now. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, now this is working like crazy, you know? Or, oh, wow, there's a massive bait pile over there. Now let's go find them out there, you know? But that's kind of a rundown of our guides. In terms of, because we're kind of talking about like beginners, things that I would recommend, obviously come on a guide with us. I'd love to guide if you're in the Connecticut area. But in terms of trying it, crappie's a great one, because it's an easier fish to catch, but it's one that you can adapt and grow with and kind of just learn a pattern.
Definitely rewarding. At the end of the day, if you catch them, it's rewarding.
Yeah. And then pike, if you learn it and go with somebody or go with somebody that knows about it, something that'll get your adrenaline pumping like crazy. I'd say stripers are the next step of that because they're a little harder. So you either need to go with somebody that knows what they're doing or really learn what you're doing over time. Right. But again, if you want a big hard fight to get your adrenaline pumping and really get you into fishing, striper fishing is awesome. Yeah. Especially those schoolies when there's so many of them and you're just casting into them and hammering them one after one. That's pretty kick-ass. That's like, dude, I wish I was guiding that day because that's like my dream. A huge sandbar with just birds all over it and just scattered schools of bait with stripers rummaging through it.
Can't go wrong with
Because then not only I was catching fish, but I was also having to like search for them because it was such a big area and it seemed to only be like one or two pods of or schools of stripers actually feeding. So I was like following and doing like big zigzag patterns trying to find the schools because like I get into it and catch 2 or 3 because I'm real zipping it and I'm watching one after another just flying at it. So like if I had 2 or 3 other people, it would have been a triple hookup every time we found the school. But then they'd move past you and now you're casting and getting nothing. So now you got to run around and find them and follow the pods of birds and hope that you pick the right set of bait that the fish are on, that it's not just birds.
That's awesome.
So it's like, so not only am I catching fish, but I'm running around and doing my job, where if I were guiding, I would be doing my job as a guide. You know what I mean?
Very high pace fishing.
Yeah, so like you realize nothing's happening, so it's just turn the motor back on and zip, go find them. And I'm talking like a 200, 300 yard long sandbar. One of my favorite places to striper fish in that area. But it's literally like a 200-300 yard sandbar. So like I'm catching them at the far end of it, and now the birds are going nuts on the other end. So I got to turn, zip 300 yards. Okay, now they're broken up. Where are they going next? And crappie fishing obviously on a much smaller scale, but you can kind of get that too. You know what I mean? Where especially the spot where we were talking about where we can catch 1 million of them. A lot of they move through the weeds. So it's like once you find the school, you just hammer it. And you just hit it over and over and over, get a new drift and hit it. And it's just fish, 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 like every other cast, if you're really into them.
Right.
Or every few casts, even on just a solid day, But That's the stuff as a guide. I mean, if I can put people on fish like that, that's like a dream because it's like it makes my job
And
easy.
people will have fun.
That's what I'm saying. It makes my job easy.
Right.
Because
I
I
might want to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've taken the time to dial it in, and now it's working, and it's like, yes, I did it.
My work.
I got it.
Off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the big thing with guiding is a lot of the work away from the actual guides. Like I'm not a high level guide, so I'm not guiding every day, every other day. Like some of those guys, so a lot of those guys have it very dialed in already. And they just keep hitting it day after day after day after day. So like freshwater striper guys, and there's just thousands of stripers, and they know these few spots, they're catching them in one of them. I mean, we're kind of like that with crappie or like down south crappie guys that are doing it every day, stuff like that. But with us, we have a little less time. Obviously school, work, stuff like that, because it's not our everyday job.
Yeah.
But because it's a part-time thing, so now I need to kind of use the intuition that I know, like, so I haven't fished these fish in 2 weeks. What's the water temperature like? What's the weather like?
Yeah.
Where have they possibly moved since I last fished them? And then like the day or a day or two before a guide, having to go out and find it and then apply it.
Yeah.
Or something like stripers where it is kind of a daily change, you know, where something might work one day and now I come back the next day, I'm shit out of luck, you know.
Right.
And that sucks obviously, but that happens. But then there's ones like trout where fish are coming, I just don't know when or where. So we might be 2 hours in before we catch our first fish just because we haven't gotten to a spot where they're stacked up.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's stressful, but it's fun at the same time.
Right.
Because like you're stressing, you're like, I gotta put people on fish, it's gotta happen. And then all the kind of the point I was going to before is a lot of people don't think of the preparation that goes into it. They kind of think, oh, this guy just knows the fish and he's gonna catch me the fish. You know, it's days upon days upon days of, even if it's not like a week long, like day consecutively, it's days upon days plus years of experience stacked onto it.
Right.
Where you feel confident enough to say, all right, you can pay me and I will put you on fish. And if not, don't pay me. No, I'm just kidding. But like you put that experience on the line every time you go and do a guide.
Gotcha.
And I think it's a pretty kick-ass way to get people into fishing, though.
Yeah, for sure. If you give them a good experience, that's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just having fun, being friendly. I mean, that's the best part. We didn't get to do any ice fishing guides this year. I had a couple guys that wanted to do it, but they fell through, which kind of sucks. But like that, like we were just talking about fun and friendly, dude. That's just a blast. Go out, catch some fish to the ice, eat, talk, have a good time, you know. Catch more fish to the ice, eat some more, you know. But
I'm in for that.
Ice fishing, I'd say, is more of a overall experience than just fishing. So like if you're out doing any kind of fishing, it's usually just fishing.
Yeah.
And like that's the experience. With ice fishing, the entire like everything around it is an experience, which I think is something everybody should try out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope I get some more guys this year. COVID kind of screwed me last season. But obviously anybody watching this, if you want to go or know anybody that lives in Connecticut, is going to be in Connecticut that would like to go, we're actually very cheap compared to a lot of guides, especially because Connecticut doesn't have a ton of guides. So most guys will be higher priced, but we're fairly low. Like I said, it's not my everyday job. It's a part-time thing I do on the side just for fun because I love fishing. And I love giving people that new experience. So I don't want it to be ridiculously expensive because then what the hell is the point of an experience when I'm dropping hundreds of dollars, you know? So, like, I can't tell you the exact prices. None of them are over $300 as a starting price. So the way I do it is, so one person is the starting price, and then for every additional person, it's an extra $50, just because of equipment insurance, essentially. So if I break a rod, I have an extra 50 to go towards it.
Yeah.
Something like that. If I have a maintenance issue on a boat or something like that, or I need a new reel, or just that extra 50 kind of just, like I said, equipment insurance.
It goes into it.
Yeah. And then that obviously builds over the different guides. Then if I do have something shit the bed on me, then I have the build up insurance from like 3 different guys. So now I have 150, you know. But like I said, nothing starts at over 300. Obviously, you have 2 people, so the cheapest one I think is 250 as a starting price. So if you have 2 people, you're only splitting $300 between you, 150 a person. Not bad for 5 hours of fishing. That's fantastic by guide prices. And it's fun. I mean, whether it's your first time doing something or you want to just try something new, it's definitely an experience. My only thing right now with boats is I only have a smaller aluminum. I will hopefully upgrade this year. That's my plan. I said that last year and it didn't happen again. COVID kind of screwed me. But even if it's not a massive upgrade, I'm hoping to upgrade a little bit. And in terms of guides, since I will be going to college, Max might take over the guides here. And then I might be doing guides wherever I end up. Right now it's looking like University of Maine, so I might end up doing guides up in Maine. Obviously I'd have to go out and figure that area out and kind of apply what I know from here up there. But then as I dial it in, hopefully, at least in my junior and senior year, I can do guides as another part-time gig.
Right.
And then force Max to do it here. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I know you'd probably like to do that as a part-time thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute. Pretty cute. Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping to get a boat upgrade. I'm not promising it, but I'd like to make fishing a little more comfortable for people. But for now, go and sign up for Trout River fishing. I want to book the hell out of it this year. I want to put people on fish on the river.
Fun to get to walk down the river.
Oh my gosh,
catch some fish.
Oh, that's one thing I will put though. The whole walking thing. You need to be in decent physical shape. Like you can't be injured. You can't have extreme medical problems that might inhibit you from working because it's not sitting on a boat. You're going down banks, moving along the river,
Rocks,
so you need
lots of
rocks. So you need to be in the physical shape to perform.
Yeah.
I'm not talking like super athlete. Like you just need to be in the ability to properly move efficiently and well, and just not have an extreme medical condition that could get in the way. So you don't want to have like heart defects, lung issues, anything like that, because that might mess with you.
Sprained ankle or something.
Yeah, or a legitimate injury, like a sprained ankle or a hurt knee or a bad back or anything like that, because we don't want to put people in a place to hurt themselves further, obviously. Yeah, I think that kind of covers fishing guides for the most part. Like I said, with me, it's just having fun fishing, putting people on fish, being friendly. As you can see, I'm a very talkative person. I like talking to people, teaching people about fishing, stuff like that. So it's a damn good time.
Yeah.
So go book Trout River. That's the best. That I even have it on the website and with asterisks. It's our top pick. I mean, it's fun as hell.
Oh yeah.
Like people think like, oh, it's 12, 14-inch trout. Well, when you're catching on 6-pound tests with ripping currents, it's
catching like
so
8
much
of
fun.
them.
Yeah, and you're catching 8 a piece or something like that. I think that's the great thing about that also, especially for someone's first few, is it's like, dude, this looks like an impossible task. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like you kind of just break it down into portions and sort of like, well, that's like kind of what we did with you when you were figuring it out and how I learned it, how my father learned it. You kind of break it down to things, kind of like we were talking about, like stacking those skills.
Yeah.
But learn the basics and then you can really get into it.
Yeah.
But even if you learn the basics and really get those down, you can go and catch fish within 10, 20 minutes, half an hour. Someone said something. We are frying pot. I'm not eating possum. That might be all you, Max.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not frying possum. I'm
I'm not eating possum.
No go.
But back to the fishing guide or with trout. Like I said, kind of learning the basics and kind of or taking the basics of fishing, then applying it to the basics of river fishing, and then kind of stacking those skills, and then finally like getting that reward of catching a couple fish. That's just awesome. I remember that first experience, and it was kick ass.
The first time I went river fishing with you, and I hooked that trout, and I catch it. It was like
pretty sweet.
It was love at first sight.
Well, I will say the one thing is what when you first go, I personally do it. My grandfather did it. My father did it. Whenever we're teaching somebody, we are on your ass about it seems like every little thing.
They are.
While at the same time leaving options open. So like it's this odd medium where you're like, okay, you need to hit here. It needs to be here. Okay, now do this. Wait it out. Sit it. Wait. All right, now reel it. Like it's very specific because you kind of get this place where after a few years you see the river in a different way. So you need to kind of have somebody show you that. So like I said, it kind of seems like we're just being obnoxious, but leaving options open at the same time.
Right.
So like we're saying like, okay, so you need to fish here, but they could be there or not be here. You know what I mean? So now your options are open. You need to do this, but it might not always work every time. Like it seems stupid, but when you get someone that, I don't want to say like harps on you, like digs on you, but when you kind of get that like over and over and over and kind of like get that explanation behind it, you're like, oh, I see it. And even if it's just one time during a trip, you go, oh, I see it here. I know what I'm going to do right here. I know I'm going to hit the current here, then here, then here. Push it, hit each one a few times. If there's not a fish, then I'm going to move to the next one. Right. I know how to break down this area, and then I know how to work each current effectively to actually catch fish.
Right.
So while like in the first hour, I might be, obviously I'm a guide, so I'm going to be consistently trying to get you fish. What's happening now?
It's Douglas White. Long story.
Okay. But with that happening, so I'm trying to put you on fish, but with something like river fishing, a lot of it is based on how you fish it as the fisherman. So I'm kind of like backseat driving and trying to get you on it while you're actually performing the
task.
The task, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it may, because then obviously as a guide, unless like if we're killing them, I'll start fishing too. Just because obviously the person's catching the hell out of them, I don't need to be on them.
Right.
But if it's a tougher day or it's even a more average day, I'm not going to fish. So I'm going to be there coaching the entire time.
Yeah.
Or not the entire time. I'm not going to be like telling them every little thing to do, but I'm going to sit there and coach you through it because I know the river, I know the way to fish. So I'm going to help you catch them. So it may seem like I'm digging on you or trying to force things upon you, but I'm trying to help you catch fish.
Right.
You know?
You're also learning yourself in a way. You're suggesting them, okay, you need to do this or that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do it wrong, okay, try that again. Or,
Yeah.
You're like letting them kind of ease into it themselves.
Well, that's like
giving them advice.
I still remember like teaching you and some of my other buddies and going, you missed it.
Yeah.
Like, no, I hit nope, you missed it. Try, bring it in 2-3 feet, bring the cast into, nope, you missed it again. And it sounds very negative, but it's like I said, you kind of get this like tunnel vision and like this like light at the end of the tunnel. Like I know exactly what I need to hit in this river in this section. I see it.
Yeah.
So like then somebody, I don't want to say like not doing it because then it just sounds like patronizing, but like, what do we got?
Do y'all ocean fish?
Yes.
I throw up.
We actually haven't talked about that in this much.
No, we
can go back to that because that's a great way to get into people really into fishing.
Right.
But going back to guiding, so like I said, like this whole like the coaching aspect, like I don't want to harp on people and patronize people, but if I don't want to say like if you're not doing it right, but there is a very specific way to perform in that type of fishing.
Yep.
And getting to that point requires coaching and kind of getting dug on because if you're not hitting if you're not hitting spots and you're not getting good casts, you're not getting good rips in the current, you're not getting the bait through in the proper spot, you're not going to catch fish. Yeah. So if I don't correct that at every point, you're not going to catch fish, Yeah. But then as a person kind of gets into it, then you start to leave the options open. So now, like, if we're 2 hours into a guide and you've kind of got the casting, the how do I progress through the different currents in a section and stuff like that. Okay, what do you see now? Do you I'll ask you, do you understand what to hit? You know what I mean?
You've asked me that before.
Yeah. Well, who was your buddy that we were out with one time where I came and met you guys?
Ethan.
Yeah, and you were trying to show him the rope, and you were still a little earlier on it. Yeah, but you were getting better at it. But then I started talking to him. He was looking at me like, "Who the hell is this kid?" And you're like, "Listen to him."
Trust me.
Yeah. And then within 15 minutes, I caught a fish after you guys had only caught 2 all day or something like that. And then, but I was coaching him through it, and I think, did he catch one? I don't think so. But you start seeing that realization where it's you need the coaching.
Yeah.
It's not like other fishing where you just go and cast over and over and hit everywhere until you figure it out.
River fishing.
Mm-hmm. You kind of need
different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah. But after all that, it's fun.
Oh yeah. And I suggest getting the guide, signing up for
yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Definitely sign up for a guide if you're trying to get into it or trying to improve in it. Because like I said, we see a lot of people fish it very wrong. Or they have the right idea or the right bait and all that, but they just don't do it quite correctly, and that just kind of kills
I just
the whole trip.
The lures and the rocks.
Oh, that's the funniest thing.
That's the way.
Oh, we find it. It's a joke. Wacky worms and
Remember when I caught the big brown, and then that old guy moves in closer and closer with his lure. I'm like,
yeah, he was gonna get him. He was gonna get the other big one there.
Dude, there's.
Well, that's one thing a lot of people don't realize. If there's a big fish in a pool, it is the big fish in a pool.
Yeah,
you know. It. But kind of. What other lures? Oh, the wacky worm on a walleye spinner on a crawler harness. That was the number one. I'm bright neon line. That was the number one.
Like when I got my frog lure. Yeah, that was actually funny.
Where's that? The res?
Yep. Where it goes.
Everyone gets stuck up there. I've gotten stuck up there when I was younger. I don't care.
Everybody does it.
But going to the ocean fishing thing, I fish the ocean a lot more than Max. He throws up. We're gonna fix that this year.
When we go up to Montauk, Block Island, if we stay close into shore, I'm good. Because Todd's got a 24-foot boat.
24-foot.
Yeah. So those waves are, and I'm just.
Yeah. If you want to see some of the saltwater stuff we do, my Instagram's in the link, or it's down below, and you can see some of the saltwater stuff from this past year, previous years, stuff like that. My sister keeps calling me, which probably means I'm in trouble. No, I'm just kidding. But they're probably calling me to get me over to eat. Gotta put food in my belly. I just got back from practice. Yeah. But yeah, I do a ton of ocean fishing. I don't do guides for it just because that's a whole nother animal. Yeah. Except striper fishing, we go saltwater later in the year.
You know, we got to do striper fishing at some point. Well, you might be.
Just more so, you mean?
Yeah. Wait, when are you going to college?
In late August, for fall semester.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hit them in the summer for sure.
Right, that's what I figured.
Or on the river in the spring and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't do saltwater guides, but definitely going back to the Trout River thing, definitely recommend that. Adam fishes, I know that.
Yeah, Adam knows.
I know from one dude. But I can give you a discount too, because you know Max. But wait, was he the one that wanted to try it last year? And then COVID hit?
I can't
Who was the one that wanted to?
I can't remember.
Do it. I don't care whoever it is, sign up for him.
I don't think it was him. I don't remember.
But the link to my personal Instagram, Max's Instagram, the guide service Instagram. Yeah, we got a lot of pages. Deal with it. But and then the website for the guide service, you can either DM me directly and ask about it, or you can book it through the website. Either way is fine. My dad yelling at me about food through the comments. So
Big Mike.
we gotta wrap it up then. But yeah, sign up for a guide. COVID restrictions should be relaxed by anywhere between May and July. So that's prime time for guides and fishing in general.
The nice thing is about trout is like
It's early. We're away from everybody. Yeah,
you were like,
plenty of space. So that's a good one. And he said Max is cute. That's a little weird. I'm just saying.
You are too. Mike.
You are too, Mike. All right, but we'll wrap it up. So you did intro, so I got outro. All right. So again, we talked about guides a bunch. So obviously, check things down below. You can either directly message me through the guide Instagram, either of our personal Instagrams, or book a trip directly through the website. Any of them are perfectly fine, easy to do. The only thing with the website is if you do it there, it's email based. So if you'd rather text or DM or anything like that, then go through the Instagrams, or you can go and call or text my number, which is on the website. There's a bunch of different ways to get in contact with us if you want to go on a guide. What do we got? Anything else?
Yeah, Adam's just talking about I'm going. Nice talking to you guys.
All right, nice talking to you too.
Thanks.
But we're wrapping it up. So you're not missing much. But definitely go sign up for a guide if you're interested. Tell family and friends who might be interested as well. It's a damn good time.
It is.
Fishing and fun. I mean, it's basically all it is. But like this. Subscribe if you aren't already. Comment down below. That seems to be the big algorithm push lately. So if you comment, obviously we got a bunch on this already, but if you're viewing it in the past tense, then comment as well, because that'll help. Turn on notifications. That's what Max usually says. But
go subscribe, like, turn on notifications, share.
You always get me on one of them. So Max got share today. That's his one. Usually it's notifications. But go follow us on the all the Instagram accounts. That's where we do updates. I kind of talked to Max beforehand about going to Missouri still. Missouri. And then we've also got a couple other ideas for later in the year in the summer and stuff. So there's definitely cool stuff coming. So subscribe here, stay tuned here. Follow the Instagrams to stay updated on any changes or any trips we're taking. And then, until then, my name's Nate.
My name's Max.
And we will see you next time.
Adios.
And end.